Wazoo. Hello, welcome back to Elden Ring Nightreign. As of right now, I've already done part 27, but I decided to drop this here now because here we are doing Sentient Pest, the Everdark variant, and Everdark Sovereign Sentient Pest is out now, and so I thought I would drop this now instead of after they've already been here and left. So, in case you couldn't tell, this is a voiceover because trying to talk while also playing is very difficult and makes me play a lot worse. And so, for here, I decided to just play muted and not talk so you can see how I play when I'm not also focused on talking. And I'm just going to do a voiceover explaining what I was doing and why I was doing it. Also, I changed some voice settings, so hopefully I sound good, hopefully I'm not too loud. The weapon didn't really do anything, but, like, not really good for my build. But it had a secondary effect that was good for using a bow, so I picked it up for the secondary effect and not the weapon itself. And here, I'm running with teammates, or like random teammates, and normally I'm the one taking charge and leading, but I'm not a big fan of leading, so if someone else is willing to do that, I'll happily accept it. Even if I sometimes disagree with where they choose to go, I'm willing to accept that over leading myself. Especially since a lot of randoms, for some reason, don't know how to lead or aren't willing to lead. Now, I mostly focus on fighting the 4th, 5th, and 6th Nightlords. And even with the 4th, 5th, and 6th Nightlords, most randoms just won't lead. So, in the rare instance where I find someone who is willing to do it, I just thank the matchmaking for the blessing and don't question it. Here, I was going to let a teammate have it because it wasn't specific to bows, but neither of them picked it up, so I did. And even though I said that I'm going to let the teammates lead if they're willing to do it, all three, or two of the three of my relics involve Everjails and gaining power upon doing Everjails. And so because of that, I decided to ping an Everjail. And a teammate opened it up already, which means that I just get to pin another Everjail, which is pretty nice. And here, play them. Now, boost HP restoration from Flask is always one of the best things you can get. At least 1 or 2 times. But even though I said that I'm willing and happy to let teammates lead, sometimes I'll still pin if something is just super important, like a church, or if I want to lead the team in a certain direction, like towards that Everjail. So that was kind of the goal. And there I showed Stone Sword Key just to say, yeah, I still have one of these. Now, something I do a lot is I'll pick up warming stones while going through the churches. Your teammate did some personal pins to lead us to this boss. And I figured, it's a Black Knife Assassin. We can do that. Because Black Knife Assassins are pretty easy. They're not like a big threat. They decided to run with the pulley crossbow. Because pulley crossbow is just really good. But here, I didn't know if they had any more Stone Sword keys. So I really wanted to run ahead and use mine. That way, if they had one, they would still know that they have one and could pin another Stone Sword key themselves. Or pin another Evergale. Here, just focusing on staying out of their aggro, and marking the boss as much as possible. It worked pretty well. Improved dodging is very good, but 20k is even better. At least for the Sentient Pest. Because you don't really need to do a whole lot of, like, light dodge times for Sentient Pest. Most of their attacks are either easily outpositioned, third sprinted, or you can use the character skill marking. There I went to go up top, but he ran this way, and I wanted to follow the team. Here I decided to buy 2 Starlight Shards, just for Revenant, because they might want them for spellcasting. And there I placed 1 personal pin, just to tell the team that I was going down. Here, Flee 9 Misbegotten. They're very similar to Black Knight Assassins, in the sense that they're mobile, but they're not really a big threat. Now, they can hit hard with 1 or 2 attacks, but as long as you keep that in mind and respect them, it'll be an easy win. Here, none of these looked good for me, but I decided that Hand of Millennia would be good for Executor. So I picked that up, dropped it, pinned it, and then I picked up a Wilder's Greatsword. Not because I would use it, but because I really like Wilder's Greatsword. It's one of my favorite Greatswords in the entire series. From Sensei Talisman is a very good talisman. But I really like it both because of the visual design and because it doesn't have like a sheath or scabbard. And personally, I don't like when weapons have sheaths or scabbards. Here was going to run up to fight the giant off to the right because it was out of the rain. But a teammate decided that they wanted to go somewhere else. And I fully accepted that because I pretty quickly realized my idea wasn't super great. And it's very important to understand and accept when your idea isn't very good in Nightreign, because you're on a time crunch. Here, I didn't like that as much as either of the 2 that I already had, so I just pinned it and moved on. Here, there's the boss Rune Bear. There's also a second, like, normal enemy Rune Bear. You can see the team already aggroed. And they both drop a boss reward. I don't know what they're actually called, or if they even have a name. I got a little annoyed at these enemies, so decided to just kill them so they wouldn't shoot me anymore. But yeah, these little like blue, purple, gold things, both the boss and normal enemy rune bearer drop those. There, Elbenork bow. Which Elbenork bow is one of the 3 best bows, along with the black bow and the pulley bow. So, if you can get that, definitely go for it. Unless you have something else also really good, like increased damage, physical damage negation, improved dodging, boost HP restoration from flasks. Because your likelihood of getting another Elbenork bow, or black bow, or pulley bow is pretty decently high. At least, I'm pretty sure. And you only need 1 bow, whereas those other upgrades, you can use multiple. And as you can see there, both of the weapons had very good secondary effects, but improved physical damage negation is just too good. There, that wasn't good for me, so decided to just not grab it, move on. And the team was standing around for a few seconds. And because I don't want to just stand around doing nothing, I decided to kill some bats while they figured out where to pin next. So did that, they pin, and we can move on. Because, like I said, when a teammate is willing to lead, I just say hands off. I will just thank the matchmaking gods and not worry about it. Here, just a little extra pocket change. Not something you want to do super often, but if you have nothing else to do, it's good. There, looked, saw Tree Sentinel, figured it's not worth fighting on day 1, especially not alone. And here we got the Elbenork area. So, the ruins and the forts and the encampments, they can have different, like, enemies and bosses. And for the Elbenorks, you have 2 Elbenork archers on, not really horseback, but wolfback, I suppose. And there, as you can see, another Elbenork bow. But I already have one, so stamina recovery speed. And I figured we don't have anything else to do, so might as well go around killing the enemies for some extra pocket change. That's something you only want to do if there's nothing else to do. But here, they fell behind a rock and the rain was coming in, so there, as you can see, another Elbenork bow. So in case you haven't been keeping count, we are on day 1, and we've already gotten 3 different Elbenork bows, and the pulley bow, which is, in my opinion, the best crossbow. There's that and Krups's Black Vial. Those are like the 2 best. So, with Iron Eye specifically, if you're given the choice between a good weapon or a good other effect, like boost HP restoration, boost physical damage negation, improved dodging, going with the bow is typically the last thing you want to do, because there are so few bows, and as Iron Eye, you're more likely to get bows. Meaning, you've got a pretty good chance of getting a good bow. Here, just focusing on getting rid of those who live in death. And Yeah, you can't lock onto them when they're on the ground, so you have to do the manual aiming, which is just a little rough on a controller, but it works well enough. Here, with just the Tibia Mariner left, we can focus on them. And there's a little bit of confusion as they can teleport around, but really not that bad. Especially since it's just of them left. There's not much they can do. And pretty soon, they go down. Here, none of these looked good, which was a bit unfortunate. It's like, I don't really use FP, especially not on Iron Eye, so I just went with whatever. And then he made a decision, and we could go ahead and you can run into the rain after the Night 1 boss. If you go out, like, immediately, you're gonna need a heal or two, but it can get you just a little bit of extra time. A little extra head start. There made a pin because going this way leads you to a troll. And I figured if you're going into the tunnel, that's probably what you're doing. And even if not, it's probably worth picking up, because it is super fast. And the Elven Orc bow can be upgraded with a smithing stone too. There, tried to check the map. I couldn't immediately see where it was. I had to look around, but there I spotted it. And I was just thinking, do we want to beeline straight for it? Or do we want to take the flying bird tree, the spectral hawk? And I figured going this way would be better, because we can hit the main castle. Or we can just run, like, straight forward, take the jump that's just beyond the castle. And there, I saw a teammate was not super with us. Saw them there on the map. And I just decided to take note of that. But we kept running. And I was a little worried about the teammate not being with us. Not because I thought that we would die, but because it would take time for them to catch up. And there, I decided to pin that because it's a good boss that we could fight, and it would give them time to catch up. Here, I figured gold pickled foulfoots are worth dropping 2 warming stones, because you can buy 2 warming stones guaranteed at the day 3 merchant for 15k. And I could get more than that with 2 gold pickled foulfoots. So, run down here, drop down, and I saw that it was the bell-bearing hunter. And I've heard a lot of people say that the bell-bearing hunter is like the scariest, most difficult boss in Nightreign. And while they do hit very hard, I know the bell-bearing hunter pretty well, because you can fight them multiple times in base Elden Ring. And I fight them in every location, pretty much every time. Especially the one in Dragon Barrow, which is the most difficult version of them. And I tend to fight them at a pretty low level, at least compared to when you're supposed to fight them. So, I know this boss pretty well, and that makes me pretty confident going up against them, despite how hard they hit. And that's why I'm fine constantly marking them, instead of saving that to dodge any attacks. And they went down, popped a gold pickled foul foot, marked the next boss. Nothing looked good there, so I picked that up. And I figured I could drop it for a teammate the next time we're standing around. Here, jump up. The night's tide grows closer. I checked the map to see if we could stay in the circle there. I dropped the weapon, marked the boss, and made a slight miscalculation. But I was quick to learn from that and make sure it didn't happen again. Here, the boss got the sleep icon, but they, like, didn't fall asleep. Which was pretty weird. But Iron Eye is very powerful, so them not falling asleep doesn't matter too much, because I can just keep marking them, keep dumping in damage. He doesn't really have a lot of damage per shot, but he's a very powerful character because of how he has range. But unlike Recluse and Revenant, he doesn't rely on FP for that range. And then marking, very powerful skill, and a single shot is a pretty powerful ultimate as well. Their reward didn't spawn, which was unfortunate. That kind of sucked. That happens sometimes. I think it's like a lag thing. Here, upgraded the Elden Ring bow. And because that freed up an item slot, I could buy 2 warming stones. And I figured since we're here, we can hit this.
There is no escape for thee.
Yeah, we got invaded.
Bent on sacking the lands of gold.
My thought process here was that Revenant was going to come up with us, and that we could clear out this rooftop and then fight the boss at the roof. But then I found myself alone against Crystallion. But Crystallions are weak to stance breaking, and Iron Eye is garbage at stance breaking. But thankfully, Executor came up with me, and they stance broke the boss. Here, didn't really have time to grab that reward because they went down. And in case you don't know, if the person who got targeted dies, then the entire team gains a permanent debuff that makes you take more damage. And obviously you don't want that, so I decided to forego that one boss reward, go pick up the Revenant, and we could fight the fell Omen out here.
The shadow of the fell Omen shall not wait.
And there, he dies. You gain a buff. I don't think the buff is that good, but it is what it is. It's a lot better than getting the debuff. And since we were already kind of heading in that direction, we could make our way to the main castle. Here, it was just barely a 3-shot on these enemies, which was very unfortunate. Especially since I had enough runes to level up. But I figured better to just stay where I can actually put in damage. And Executor ran off to the second troll, so that way they wouldn't be throwing giant magic pots at us. Which is something I typically do. There you can see another bow, but you only need one bow, so grab the extra stamina, which is always useful, and moving on. Here, grabbed resistance, just because the boss can poison, and then moved on. Here, decided to put some arrows in a few enemies while my team caught up. So that way they wouldn't have to fight the enemies on top of the troll. There, didn't see anything super useful. So decided to kill these enemies, and I was going to go after the second troll, or like the final one, but I saw that they weren't throwing any magic pots at me, so figured we could just focus on this troll. And there, popped that, because I was assuming we were going after that troll next. Another bow, as you can see. So, since we only need one, I went with stamina recovery speed. But here, around this time is when I noticed, yeah, Revenant isn't with us at all. They're going after the boss up top. And Executor decided to agree. And so I decided to go with the team. Now there is a way on like the outer part of the castle that allows you to get up faster. However, it's very, very easy to throw yourself off the side when you do that. And that wastes so much time. Whereas I've noticed that going through the interior, it only takes an extra, like, maybe 1 or 2 seconds, if that. But it's so much easier to do, and it's so much more consistent. And I think that's the better path, so that's what I do. Here, Ulcerated Tree Spirit. They're like a larger, more difficult variant of the Black Knife Assassins and the Leonine Misbegottens, in the sense that they're fast, they're mobile, but they're pretty easy. I mean, my teammates died, but still. Here, you were caught in the rain, but the boss was a low health. And I said before, something that separates a new player from a more intermediate player is that intermediate players aren't scared of the rain. Like, you can be in the rain for like 20-30 seconds as long as you have the flasks, and you will be fine. Just don't get locked in any animations, like jumping up a spirit spring jump or falling down a big cliff when you're at low health, and don't forget to heal. And you will be fine. But here, nothing else to do, so pick out some dogs for the pocket change. And as you can see, even with all that time spent in the rain, still made it out, still did perfectly fine. Teammate decided to be a little greedy and go after the perfumer, And I thought, I'm also greedy, so I'm gonna go after the reward. And there's also a site of grace here with the boss dead. There, improved HP restoration from Flesh. Very glad I got that. But I was a little worried because the, like, page enemy was still alive. And they're far, far more dangerous than the perfumer boss. But thankfully, got in, got the reward, got a very good reward, hit the site of grace, and got out alive. So, fantastic work, I'd say. And here, we can just sit at a bit of range, and despite the constant dodging of the enemy, they went down pretty easily. And we can heal one more time. And we can take out this final enemy in order to get the boss. And we were at the destination, so I took off the pin. And then mark the boss, as always. I mean, that's just a big part of being an Iron Eye player. Is you want to mark the boss as much as possible. Because marking the boss makes them take more damage, and if you do enough damage, then you break the mark. And that does a big chunk of damage and stuns the boss, which is very nice. So on top of just being an incredible dodge, marking the boss is also very good offensively. So, you want to keep that mark up as much as possible. And that means, despite being a ranged build, I tend to play Iron Eye pretty close up to my enemies. So that way I can mark them. And with that, he goes down pretty easily. And the first two, completely useless, but improved physical attack is nice. And here, I saw that, which is pretty easy to do. And there was also an Everjail. I wasn't sure what he was doing, because he could go for either one. And I didn't really want to move into the rain until he had made a decision. But I saw him going for this, so I went for it as well. But he dropped, didn't see any boss, and ally showing location. So I figured either he chickened out, or he wasn't allowed to spawn the boss. Which is something that has happened before, where I would see a boss, and then after beating the Night 2 boss, I would go back, but the boss just despawned. So it was one of those two things. But there, we got the final level, and I decided to get Crimson Burst, because that's better than 2 Warming Stones in my opinion. Since even though it's only 1 healing item instead of 2, it's based on your character, not the location dropped. Meaning you can drink it, and then move anywhere you want and still get the healing. Here, more range, a good secondary option, less likely to be targeted. And then Wilder's Greatsword as just an emotional support weapon, because it looks really good. I've heard that normal Elden Ring is getting an update at some point with like the Tarnished edition, and I really hope that Wilder's Greatsword, it might go under a different name, but I really hope that that weapon gets added into the update, because, like I said, it just looks so good, and it not having Sheath or Scabbard is just super nice, because it helps with, like, fashion souls, because you don't have a Sheath or Scabbard messing with whatever armor set you're wearing. So, I hope that gets added. But anyways, yeah, this is the Everdark Sovereign variant of the Sentient Pest, meaning they start out in Phase 2, and then they go into a Phase 3 later. So, Phase 2 is actually surprisingly dangerous when you have to deal with it as an entire health bar. And so, it was just sitting back a bit, keeping my distance, prioritizing being safe, because it is better to be safe than dead. Here, Blue Stick died, and that got big attention on me, but I was able to get away from that. And Voo, that guy, Voo, he got Blue Stick up, but then died himself. And I was able to get him up because Iron Eye is very good at reviving other players. And having gotten him up, we're all alive, we can focus on the boss. Decided to mark the boss, and I decided to drop a Warming Stone and place a personal pin, so that way my teammates could get the heal for themselves, because I didn't need all these Warming Stones. But I've got a bit of healing there, and I decided to go after Noster, the Moth, because whichever one dies first, Animus goes into and, like, reanimates and gives them a harder moveset. And my personal opinion, Noster's expanded moveset is easier to deal with. And also, you can kill both, and then only one gets reanimated. So, even if something like this happens, where the Fartis, the Scorpion, dies first, and they get reanimated, you can still get rid of Noster. So that way you don't have to deal with them while fighting the beefed up Fartis. That's probably not how you pronounce her name, but oh well. But here, the best thing to do with the beefed up Fartis is just to stay behind them as much as possible. It's not always possible, but as Iron Eye, you can make it a bit easier by going through them with your character skill. Here, I tried to revive Glue Stick. The boss got in the way a little bit. And yeah, that jumping attack is pretty dangerous, but it's very easy to avoid with marking. And when they scream, they do this really big combo attack. And I missed time to dodge. But yeah, you really don't want to be in front of them because of that. There, I pressed the interact button instead of the dodge button. I'm just kind of kicking myself over that. But if whatever beefed up boss survives long enough, Animus will eventually leave them, and they just revert back to normal. There, I popped ult because Arthas was getting pretty close, and killed them. Noster gets revived as their beefed up version. Yeah, you can tell that the beefed up version because they get like red glowiness around them, which Animus is red, so you can make that connection. Here, that attack can look scary. It's very easy to dodge. And here, made a personal pin and dropped Warming Stone because I saw my teammates needed the health. But the poison cloud immediately into that made it unusable. And yeah, just used Marking to get out of there. And here they do this really big attack. I decided to drink, or at least to move over to that. Yeah, then here I drank it. And Surge sprinted off to the side. Once I ran out of stamina, then I used Marking. And I was gonna go after the boss, but a teammate was down, so I went after them instead. And since I was kind of low health, and teammates get revived at half health, I threw down a Warming Stone. But it didn't really matter, because Glue Stick decided to pop ult, and they have the thing that gives them blood loss, or like drains their own HP when they ult, but heals their teammates. So that was kind of dumb. Here popped ult because Animus was low. And yeah, when Animus like reanimates one of the bosses, either Noster or Fartus, attacking them makes you damage both that boss, either Noster or Fartus, but also Animus as well, which is nice. Here, Glue Stick and Vovovovovo, both good teammates. Got some rewards. And yeah, that was me fighting the Everdark Sovereigns Sentient Pest without talking, meaning I could focus purely on playing the game and therefore doing better. So that was that. Fun boss. I like him. I like him way more than the normal version, and yeah.